Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be tackling minimalism today. And, sometimes you stumble across something that really gets you thinking. In this case, it was a YouTube video by Gabe Bolt called 10 Minimalist Rules That Changed My Life.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one.
Yeah, and it just, it really got me thinking about my own life and how I approach, stuff and clutter. And what I really liked about it was that Gabe doesn't present these like super strict rules or anything. He frames it all as like his personal journey and what worked for him. So I thought it would be fun to kind of dig into some of these rules and see what we can learn from them, and maybe even challenge ourselves a little bit along the way.
Sounds good to me.
So let's start with the first rule, which Gabe calls the house on fire rule.
Okay, yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, it's a pretty powerful way to frame things, right?
Mhm.
Imagine your house is on fire and you can only grab a few things. What would those be?
It really makes you think about what's truly important, doesn't it?
It does. Like when you strip away all the distractions and the noise, what are you left with? What are the things you absolutely can't live without?
And I think it also highlights the difference between what we value in theory versus what we actually cling to in practice.
That's a good point because sometimes those two things don't really line up, do they?
No.
We might say we value experiences in relationships,
Right.
but then we find ourselves surrounded by all this stuff that we don't even really use or need.
It's like we're holding on to these things just in case.
Just in case.
But what are we really afraid of?
I think it goes back to that fear of scarcity. Like
Mhm.
we need to accumulate more and more just to feel secure.
Yeah, and it's interesting because research actually shows that experiences contribute more to long-term happiness than material possessions.
I've definitely found that to be true in my own life. Like I can remember specific trips and adventures I've had much more vividly than I can remember, what I bought 5 years ago.
Totally. It's the memories and the connections that really stick with us.
And I think the house on fire rule is a good way to kind of jolt ourselves out of that consumerist mindset and start thinking more critically about what we're bringing into our lives.
That's a mental decluttering exercise.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a literal fire. It could be anything that forces you to reevaluate your priorities. Like maybe you've lost luggage while traveling
Oh, yeah. Been there.
or had your phone stolen or something. In those moments, do you mourn the object itself? Or is it more about the inconvenience?
That's such a good question.
Because I think it often reveals what we truly value.
Right. And what we've attached our sense of self-worth to.
Yeah. And sometimes it's surprising. Like Gabe actually talks about losing all of his luggage in Europe
Oh, no.
and being surprisingly okay with it. He realized those clothes were just things.
Right, just things.
They weren't the core of his trip or his identity. So it's like those moments can be really clarifying. They can help us see what we can let go of without losing ourselves in the process.
It's like stripping away the layers to get to the essence of what matters.
Exactly. So I want to pose that question to our listeners today. If you had to start from scratch, what possessions would you truly rebuild your life around? What does that tell you about what you value? Take a moment to really think about that, because I think the answers might surprise you.
All right, so let's move on to the next rule, which I have to admit I'm a little skeptical about. It's called the 20/20 rule.
Ah, yes, this one's a classic.
And it's all about fighting that just-in-case monster that lurks in all of our closets. So the rule is if you can replace something for under $20 and in under 20 minutes, Gabe says just get rid of it.
I mean, it makes sense in theory.
Yeah, but that's a pretty bold statement. Like, what if you need that random cable or that old sweater someday?
I think that's the fear talking, right?
Probably.
The 20/20 rule is challenging us to confront our perception of scarcity.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
It's asking, is holding on to all this stuff truly making you feel more secure? Or is it just creating more clutter and mental weight?
So it's not really about the $20 or the 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Not really. It's about shifting our mindset from one of lack to one of abundance
I like that.
and realizing that most things are easily replaceable when we need them.
I'm still not sure I'm fully on board with this one.
That's okay. It's not for everyone.
But I am willing to give it a try. Maybe just for a week and see what happens.
I think you might be surprised by how much you can let go of without even noticing.
Okay, challenge accepted. Now, for those of us who aren't ready to toss everything out based on a dollar amount, Gabe offers the box rule. This one sounds more my speed.
Yeah, this is a gentler approach.
So for those items that you're just not sure about, you put them in a box, seal it up, and set a reminder for 6 months later. Out of sight, out of mind.
It's like creating your own time capsule.
I like that.
But it's also a way to test your attachment to these items.
So if you haven't opened the box in 6 months, you probably don't need anything in it.
Exactly. It's a simple but effective way to declutter without making any rash decisions.
I'm definitely going to try this one. Okay, let's switch gears a bit and talk about habits. Because Gabe's 2-day rule really caught my eye.
Oh, this is a good one.
It's all about building good habits, but with a twist. Instead of aiming for perfection, never missing a day, the 2-day rule says don't miss a new habit 2 days in a row.
So it's more about consistency than perfection.
Exactly. And I think that's so important because let's be real, life happens. We get busy, we get tired, we get off track.
Yep.
But the 2-day rule is like a permission slip to be human. It's saying it's okay to slip up occasionally, but the key is getting back on track quickly.
It's about building that resilience
Yeah.
and not letting one setback derail your entire progress.
I love that because I'm such an all or nothing person. So if I mess up one day, I feel like giving up altogether.
I know the feeling.
But the 2-day rule almost feels like a safety net.
It is. It's like a reminder that you're not starting from zero every time you slip up.
So what does Gabe use the 2-day rule for? Any specific examples?
He mentions reading even just 1 page a day and daily exercise. He's not shooting for marathons here, just making those small, consistent efforts.
So it's really about building those micro habits that add up over time.
Exactly. And it's amazing how much those small actions can compound over time.
So what's one habit you've been wanting to cultivate? I'm thinking about my meditation practice. I've been wanting to be more consistent for ages.
Well, there you go. The 2-day rule could be the perfect tool for that.
Okay, I'm ready to put it to the test. All right, let's move on to a rule that's a bit more philosophical, the investing rule.
Ah, yes, this is one of my favorites.
It's all about shifting your focus from acquiring things to investing in experiences.
It's a pretty well-established concept in positive psychology. Experiences tend to lead to more lasting happiness than material possessions.
And Gabe talks about how he's prioritized travel, and instead of buying stuff for gifts, he now gifts experiences to loved ones. He seems to be really enjoying this shift.
It makes sense, because when you think about it, experiences are what create memories and stories.
Right. And they shape who we are as people.
They challenge us, they teach us, they connect us.
And those are things that money can't buy.
Exactly. So it's about investing in the things that truly matter.
So if you had a limited amount of resources,
Yeah.
would you spend them on another gadget you might get tired of? Or would you put that money toward a trip, a concert, a skill-building workshop? What would create a lasting memory or sense of fulfillment?
Those are the questions we need to be asking ourselves.
Because it's easy to get caught up in the consumerist culture and think that happiness comes from buying more stuff.
Right.
But I think deep down, we all know that's not true. It's the experiences, the relationships, the moments of connection. Those are the things that make life worth living.
Couldn't agree more.
So let's all make a commitment to invest in those things and see what kind of magic unfolds.
Right on.
All right, so we've covered a few of Gabe's rules so far, and I'm already feeling inspired to simplify and declutter. But we've got more to explore. So stay tuned for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll be discussing more of Gabe's minimalist rules and how we can apply them to our own lives.
Can't wait.
See you soon.
Welcome back, everyone, to our deep dive into minimalist rules.
Back for more.
We're picking up where we left off with Gabe Bolt's 10 rules that changed his life. And this next one is all about organization. It's the have a home rule.
Ooh, I like this one.
And it's pretty simple, really. Everything in your house should have a designated place.
Like a home for everything.
Exactly. So you always know where to find things. And more importantly, where to put them back.
No more frantic searching for your keys.
Or that one important document.
Been there.
You know, Gabe actually talks about how this rule has saved him so much time and stress.
Yeah, makes sense.
When your surroundings are in order, it can create a sense of mental clarity.
It's like decluttering your mind as well as your physical space.
Right. And it can also help you be more intentional about what you bring into your home.
If it doesn't have a home, does it even belong here? That's a good question.
Because we often hold on to things just because we don't know where else to put them.
Or because we feel like we should.
But the have a home rule is a way to kind of challenge that.
It's about being more mindful about our possessions.
And making sure that everything we own serves a purpose.
I like that. All right, let's move on to a rule that I think is particularly relevant in today's world. The other people rule.
Oh, this is a big one.
It's all about recognizing the influence of social pressure on our buying habits. Do we really need that new phone or that trendy gadget or that bigger house?
So many good questions.
Or are we trying to keep up with the Joneses?
It's easy to get caught up in that comparison game.
It is,
After the-
especially with social media.
We're constantly bombarded with images of what other people have and what we think we should have.
And it can be really hard to resist that pressure.
But the other people rule is a reminder to check in with our motivations.
Am I buying this for me? Or am I trying to impress someone else?
That simple question can be incredibly revealing.
It can help us break free from that cycle of consumerism.
And start making choices that are truly aligned with our values.
Okay, now for a rule that I think can be a game changer, the 90 rule.
Oh yeah, this is a good one.
And it applies to both buying decisions and managing your time and energy.
I love that.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love it or need it? If it doesn't score at least a 9, don't buy it.
Makes sense. But
So powerful.
imagine your home filled only with things that spark genuine joy, and your calendar filled only with commitments that you're truly excited about.
What a concept.
It's about being more selective
Hmm.
and curating your life instead of just accumulating stuff.
It's quality over quantity.
Exactly. And it applies to our time as well.
So are you saying we should only say yes to things that are a resounding heck yes?
I think so. Because our time and energy are precious.
And we need to be protective of them.
Saying no can be a powerful act of self-care.
It is, and it frees up space for the things that truly matter.
Right.
Okay, I'm notorious for procrastinating. So this next rule might be the one I need most. The 2-minute rule.
Ah, yes, the classic productivity hack.
If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. Don't overthink it. Don't put it on your to-do list. Just get it done.
It's amazing how effective that can be.
It's like tricking your brain into action.
Sometimes just getting started is the hardest part.
And once you've cleared a few small tasks off your plate, you start to build momentum,
It creates a sense of accomplishment.
which motivates you to tackle bigger tasks.
It's a snowball effect.
I like that. Gabe even uses the 2-minute rule for exercise. Instead of agonizing over a full workout, he'll commit to just 2 minutes of movement.
Smart.
And often that's all it takes to get him going.
It's about lowering the barrier to entry.
Small steps lead to big changes.
Exactly. It all adds up.
All right, final rule, the nightly reset.
Ooh, this is a good one for winding down the day.
It's about ending your day intentionally and setting yourself up for success the next morning.
Imagine waking up to a tidy home close, laid out coffee prepped.
That sounds amazing. I usually start my mornings feeling rushed and behind schedule.
I think a lot of us do.
So what exactly does a nightly reset involve?
It's different for everyone. For Gabe, it includes tidying up the common areas, prepping his coffee maker, laying out his clothes for the next day, and reviewing his schedule.
So it's those little things that can make your mornings smoother and less stressful.
Exactly. And it only takes a few minutes.
But it can make a world of difference.
It's like giving your future self a gift.
I love that.
Instead of starting the day in reactive mode, you're already a few steps ahead,
It's about creating a sense of calm and control.
even amidst the chaos of daily life.
And research shows that having a consistent evening routine can actually improve sleep quality.
That's a bonus.
All right, so we've covered all 10 of Gabe's rules, from decluttering and habit building to making intentional choices about our time, energy, and possessions. It's quite a collection.
I know, right?
Yay.
So much to think about.
But I think what ties these rules together is a focus on intentionality and simplifying your life to make room for what truly matters
It's about letting go of the excess
in our homes, our schedules, our minds.
and focusing on the things that bring us joy, meaning, and connection.
So it's not about living with the bare minimum or depriving yourself.
Not at all.
It's about being mindful, making choices that align with your values, and creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
And it's a journey, not a destination.
Right, there's no one right way to do minimalism.
It's about finding what works for you.
And making those small, consistent shifts that add up over time.
And that's what I love about Gabe's approach.
It's not about perfection or rigidity. It's about finding a way to live more intentionally and create a life that feels good.
And that's something we can all strive for.
Absolutely. So what do you say? We take a quick break and then come back for part 3, where we'll wrap up our discussion and share some final thoughts and takeaways.
Sounds good to me.
See you soon. All right, we are back, ready to wrap things up.
I am.
So we've covered a lot of ground today, talking about Gabe's 10 minimalist rules. And I think the main takeaway for me is it's not really about having less stuff. It's about having more intention, more clarity, more freedom.
I think that's a great way to put it.
It's about designing a life that truly reflects your values and letting go of the things that are holding you back.
And it doesn't have to be this huge, overwhelming process either.
Right. You can start small, choose 1 or 2 rules that resonate with you, and experiment. See what works.
It's a journey, not a destination.
And remember, it's about progress, not perfection.
So don't beat yourself up if you slip up.
Just get back on track and keep moving forward.
Have fun with it.
Exactly. Minimalism shouldn't feel like a chore. It should feel liberating. So what rule are you most excited to try out?
I'm thinking about the 90 rule for my next shopping trip.
Ooh, good one. I'm going to try the have a home rule for my desk. It's a disaster zone.
We can do this.
All right, so before we sign off, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. Of all the things you own, all the stuff you've accumulated over the years, what one item sparks the most joy for you, and why? Take a moment to reflect on that, and let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into minimalism. We hope you found it inspiring and helpful.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, happy simplifying.